Hello, I'm Laura Knights, CEO of Knights Consulting, creator of BlackWomanLeading.com, and the host of Black Woman Leading, the podcast. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on 3 core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Hey there, before we get started with the next podcast episode, I wanted to let you know that enrollment is now open for our January 2025 cohorts for both the early career and the mid-career programs. Now, our programs provide just-in-time support based on where you are along your career journey. In our programs, they are holistic in nature. So yes, we will create leadership development plans. You will get training to strengthen your leadership skills. You'll get coaching. You'll do all this in community and through the unique lens of your experience as a Black woman. But we won't just focus on your career. We'll focus on you and your holistic success. So we'll talk about your wellness. We'll talk about resilience, overcoming burnout, and you'll also create a self-care plan in our programs. So whether you're early career, developing those foundational leadership skills, or mid or senior level, really looking at strategy and what's next for you in this season of your career, we have something for you. Now, our programs also include a ticket to our annual leadership conference, Black Woman Leading Live, happening in May 2025. So you can visit our website at www.blackwomanleading.com. Click on the program's menu header and you'll see the options and also the next steps to explore if our programs are right for you. So welcome everyone. I'm excited about today's episode. Our title is Getting Your Gut in Check with BB Arrington. BB, welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. So happy to be here talking about this stuff. It's important.
It's very important. So we're going to get into all of these details today. But first, let me just give you the official about BB. BB is a nutritional therapy practitioner who specializes in gut health for creative individuals. She teaches creatives to become more health autonomous so they can focus on flow and share their gifts with the rest of the world. In addition to her clinical work, she has contributed her expertise to venture-backed fitness apps, the U.S. Air Force, as well as many online publications. So you all know, if you've been around here for a while, I always say our guests come with the receipts, honey. They're not hobbyists. This is what they do, okay? This is expertise in the building. So let me tell you a bit about how I found BB and kind of why this topic. So I've shared on some past episodes that I've been on my own kind of health journey and weight loss and just trying to get healthier. And one of the things I realized is that to really sustain some of the changes I've been able to make for myself over the last year, that I needed to create just a different and better relationship with food. And I just wanted to learn a little bit more. If you've been on any weight loss journey, 80 to 90% of it is, the food, the nutrition piece. And I just feel like that is an area that I still need a lot of support on. So here is me Googling Black women, nutrition, wellness, wholeness, integrative, and just hoping that the Google was going to bring me something. And here comes BB. It actually, I think BB was an article that was focused more on your fitness expertise. But as I was reading through, the highlighted points was all this other stuff. So I went to your website and was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So we had a conversation. BB has also come and done a kind of private session with our BWL participants on this topic. And I'm going to be working with her too, personally. So just really excited to, bring some more insight to our community around this. So before we start jumping into gut health, I first want to ask you, BB, the question that I ask all of our guests. What does the phrase Black woman leading mean to you? And can you just share a little bit about your journey as a Black woman leading yourself and how you've kind of come to do this current work?
Yeah. Well, to me, Black women have always been leading. And to me, it's honestly just honoring and recognizing that, because I think that much of our work and much of our leadership goes without recognition. It's almost expected.
Yeah.
So perhaps in that goes unseen. And I feel like in this field, particularly in holistic or integrative or functional nutrition and medicine, if you look, I don't see people who look like me. I really don't.
Mhm.
Maybe more out there, but to be completely honest, it seems pretty exclusive. That's not why I wanted to be in the field that I'm in, but it's, if anything, it's made me realize that my voice needs to be a little bit louder so that people also understand that it's not just for other, it is, I
Yeah.
mean, health should be accessible to legit everyone and have different unique perspectives, that are influenced by, culture as well into this field. I think, as you obviously know, representation is extremely
Yeah.
important. um, and while, we've become accustomed to seeing Black doctors in like the Western medicine, generally in the field of nutrition, there is definitely a lack. And so, and especially in functional or in that integrative world, certainly a lack. I could say personally, I do not have any that I know who also do the work that I do.
Yeah.
I have some Latin colleagues, but other than that, so I'm just hoping that I can bring it to a broader audience and that people can see themselves in me and understand that this sort of work is for everyone and not just for the people who you see normally leading the conversations.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's, when we talk about it, Black women leading this kind of integrative wellness, that you can't be a great leader if you're not well yourself. I love, just the representation is important, but like you said, this integrative approach, because there's no separation from these different parts of our life. So excited to dive into this. So okay,
Mhm.
good health. I feel like I hear so much about this, especially like I am a supplement kind of person in the supplement
Mhm.
world, and everybody's talking about good health, and why it's so important. Can you provide some insight into this, like beyond the buzz? What are we talking about with gut health, and why is it critical that we need to be paying attention to this?
Absolutely. I always say that the gut is like the mother. It is the great original design. And the gut is one singular focus that touches literally every aspect of our physical and our mental health. And I think the reason why now it's getting a little buzzy, if you will, and it almost feels trendy. So you're like, am I adopting a trend?
Right.
I think it's just, I mean, the research is burgeoning, and I think what the connections that they're finding are very exciting. For example, when we talk about mental health, they've found many connections with the gut produces most of like your serotonin, which is a hormone that kind of makes you feel stable.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing in a lot of the research is that those with mental disorders or instability, we've noticed that their serotonin levels are off. Who produces the serotonin? The gut. So they're starting to make connections like that.
Yeah.
Additionally, it's going to play a role literally in every single system of your body because it is where we ingest and it's where we take in. But in addition to that, it's kind of got its own, or it does have its own, let's say, like community, if you will. And perhaps you've heard the term microbiome, which
Yeah.
refers to the bacteria, which I know generally has like a ew kind of like connotation, but no, 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 no. Like, it's other organisms that are living to help us digest, to help our bodies receive and send signals. So that is like the Wild West out there because that information is so, so exciting. And especially, when we talk about historically, when we've talked about nutrition, people generally think of weight loss,
Right.
right? And they're also finding that some connections with the microbiota, the gut microbiome, and how it's interacting with our hormonal response, which therefore has relationship to weight management.
Mhm.
So they're just seeing like, oh my goodness, there is something inside of all of us that is controlling so much of us
Yeah.
that we never even knew about. Like we knew bacteria was in the system, but like what are they doing? Or we knew your digestive system is going to, take in food and create and build your body from your teeth to your eyes to your neurological to support your neurological function. But it's the how and who is talking to one another
Yeah.
is really exciting. And I think that's why it's, come out into, dare I even say, like, you know, pop pop health.
Yeah.
It's like the topics that are kind of trendy and buzzy.
So what was really interesting, and I think I may have referenced this season. So I'm currently in a kind of somatic practitioner certification program, and somatics, you all, if you're listening, is just really about how your body responds and how your physical presence kind of responds to stress and regulating your central nervous system and all of that. So the unit we're in now is around breath work. And what was
Mhm.
really powerful I think this was just on Sunday, we were going through like the seven belts of tension and breathing and all of that, and the kind of pelvic area where your gut and all this is, and the teacher was talking about the research that's coming out that's showing. She was having us think about our clients that we might be kind of supporting through some breath work for stress release and all of that, and she was talking about, particularly when you're kind of moving people through the belt of tension that touches the gut area, the abdomen, all of that, that there is a correlation between maybe, I guess, gut disorders like IBS and all of that, and higher levels of diagnosed depression and anxiety, and a clear linkage they're seeing. So she was talking about how, as we're kind of guiding people through breath work and maybe doing some type of meditative language, that as people are breathing through that part of the body and they have some biological issues like IBS, it could
Mhm.
trigger some emotional response. And so I thought that was just so powerful, that something as simple as breathing through a certain area of that, through the gut area, and encouraging people in their mental mind to kind of focus their energy and their breath there, could trigger these emotional or responses. And so it's exactly what you're saying. I think we think, and I won't say we, I'll talk about myself and my own educational journey.
Yeah.
Somebody's listening, like, I didn't think that, Laura, you thought that. No, but like, even I feel like my kind of entry into doing more research and looking for support like you was
Mhm.
around just the physical aspects of wanting to maintain weight loss, of wanting to feel better. And then it's like an onion as you keep peeling it back. It's like, oh Lord, this talking about my mental health. This talking about, all of these different things. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to dive into, because I think that education is really lacking for people. We just don't know, where would you get the information from to help you make better decisions. So speaking on this kind of stress, mental health, nervous system, can you talk a little bit more about the connections between the gut and the central nervous system, or what we see between the gut and stress? Because I think that is a gap that some people may have.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, like research wise, there is a bit of a gap there. We've noticed like correlations, but we can't say, this is any 100% like cause and
Right.
effect. But I guess the biggest thing is like the vagus nerve, which basically is a highway nervous system that runs from your brain to, the heart and, to your digestive organs. It's part of your parasympathetic state. Maybe you've familiar, if you're not familiar, basically we've got two states more or less,
Mhm.
your rest and digest, and we have your like fight or fight or flight.
Yeah.
And how I to help myself remember when I was like learning, um I always thought like parasympathetic was you can pause, you have moments of pause, so you're resting, you're digesting. You're sympathetic, oh, you feel bad for someone, so you're like amped up,
Right.
whatever works for you to help you remember. Like, use it or don't, whatever. Um, and so the vagus nerve, in its main function, or it's a part of the parasympathetic, we'll call it even highway, if you
Yeah.
will, because nerve is sending signals and messages, is connected to your gut. And they're through the brain and to the gut. they're chit-chatting without you, like, even knowing it, and actually a lot of chit-chat or chatter happens gut up. We generally think of, like, brain down, like,
Yeah.
brain controls everything, but there's talk from, in the opposite direction, which is super, important to think about. I think in a colloquial or an everyday um sort of response, or something that we can all kind of connect to, is notice how you feel in your stomach, whether it be queasy, tight, loss of appetite, sudden urges to use, the toilet, when you are nervous, maybe you have a big presentation, maybe, you've got a deadline that is around the corner. Maybe it's a email from your boss or collaborator that is not of pleasant tone. Maybe you're grieving the loss of someone or relationship, and we've seen people like lose a bunch of weight because they're not eating, because their system
Yeah.
is not needing that sort of thing. So, on a day to day, we see that sort of thing, and now we're kind of starting to put scientific, like, language to it. And what's really interesting and makes it, I guess, a little bit tough um, to identify or fully explain, is that everyone experiences these things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Like, everyone experiences grief a little differently. Everyone's going to have this sort of brain gut chatter a little bit differently. But in general, when we are overloaded and when we are overwhelmed, the body does not see digestion as a priority.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like shuts things down. Or maybe you've noticed you're eating something, then you get bad news, all of a sudden it doesn't sit well, or
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like, that delicious whatever was on your plate is no longer appetite. You don't even care. You can't even think about that.
Yeah.
Right. So, we've noticed those sort of connections and correlations.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because as you're talking, my first go-to when I am sleep deprived, and sometimes happens
Hmm.
as an entrepreneur, as much as I try with my schedule, when I'm sleep deprived, or like you said, when I'm stressed, the first
Yeah.
place that I experience it is in my digestive system. I feel my
Yeah.
stomach a little upset. I feel, kind of my flow of elimination is different. And
Hmm.
I immediately can identify that link. It's just because I'm, spending more time paying attention to my body. So it's definitely a thing there.
And what you just said, I think, is super, super important. The paying attention to your body. I know everyone, has probably heard, like, look inward and, like,
Yeah.
connect with yourself. But I think culturally, and especially as ambitious, leaders, artists, whatever, it's really challenging because in order to succeed, sometimes you have to sort of suppress and ignore.
Yeah.
And that and what really needs to happen is to be more in touch, to explore, so that it can be worked through. I
Exactly.
know a lot of people are like, I don't have time for that. However, it doesn't disappear.
Yeah, you're gonna deal with it one way or another, with the doctor
Exactly.
or with some meds, with a surgery. You're gonna deal with it one way or the other.
Yes.
But one thing that I think is so powerful, and it kind of takes me into the question I want to ask you, is thinking about our population of Black women leaders and kind of, go
Mhm.
getters, nurturers for so many other people, guides for so many other people. One of
Yeah.
the things I've noticed in my work with Black women, particularly since Black women leading has been, birthed the last 4 years or so, is because there is that sense, like you said, there's so much we have to handle, not only at work, but in our personal life, in our families, in our communities, that there is this sense to kind of suppress because I don't have time for that. That could be feelings, that could be health.
Yeah.
I'm prioritizing all these other things to have so many things to do. And that kind of separation or suppressing that I've seen, particularly, and it's probably relevant for other people, but in our focus on Black women, has caused a disconnect with our physical bodies. And that's one of the reasons why I actually wanted to do this certification I'm in and bring this to our Black women leading community. We're hosting a community workshop for our participants that's all about like deepening your connection with your body and interoception and do you understand how you're feeling? Can you assess, like we were just talking about, that when I didn't get enough sleep or when I'm stressed, my stomach is upset. Like, are you paying attention in
Mhm.
that way? Because I find that we've been rewarded a lot of times, even
Yeah,
if the reward is getting the stuff done, moving through it,
yeah.
by ignoring our body, by disconnecting from our physical needs. I mean, even something as tactical as, and we joke about it in Black Woman Leading, but it's not really funny, but we joke about it as, to lighten it and encourage our participants. Like holding your urine all day because you're like, when I finish this, I'm gonna do it. When I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we joke about it, or like just not taking a lunch break, or
Mhm.
because I got so much to do, and when I finish this I'll do it, and when I finish this I'll do it, but then it's the end of the day and you didn't go to the bathroom all day. Like, it sounds crazy,
It
but we're
doesn't,
doing this stuff all the time. We are
yeah.
really doing this all the time. So do you see in your work any kind of unique or even more prevalent issues that sometimes come up with your clients that are Black women in this regard, like some of the things that I referenced that we see a Black woman leading?
Well, I mean, the expect well, let's be honest.
Yes.
When we are out presenting into the world, there is a level that whether it's, outside in or inside out, that needs to be achieved
Yep.
to even be
Yep.
recognized.
Yep.
So there is a push uh on that for sure, and there's a push to perhaps even present in a certain way.
Yep.
And when you're dealing with all that other like internal stuff, it's only like the pressure to, be on that level or appear that, on that level or create on that level and serve on that level certainly puts a demand on the body that, as you said, has been so normalized
Yep.
that people often don't even realize that they are doing that
Yep.
to themselves. Like there's not even like that self-recognition.
Yep.
Which is, sort of like, but it's like I always imagine kind of being like, imagine like you're running miles with a corset on, right? You're getting through it, you're working it. You take that corset off and you can finally breathe. You're like, that's like what it could have been like.
Yep.
And so, to address the things people are saying, well, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. Look, I get it. And sometimes, figuring out your healing package, if you will, does absolutely take time. But once you have those tools, it's not like you're spending all day tapping it. It's a just like a little check and like, oh, there it is. Okay. Do that thing that you found works,
Yes.
for that situation. So I would just like always encourage people, especially Black women, with the pressure that we see that we receive, Black American women, I guess I should speak a little bit more, the pressure that we receive, um, that those moments where you don't have to be on, you need to be in.
Yeah.
You
Ooh,
need to
wait, wait, wait. Wait, wait, wait. I might have to pass the collection plate on that, BB. Say that again. Those moments. Say that
moments
thing again.
those moments where you don't need to be on, you need to be in.
That's good, girl.
Because
Yeah.
I get it, sometimes because what I see otherwise is, oh, then it's a drink. Then it's drinks, or then it's some binge TV, and then it's this. And I'm not saying that those things cannot be incorporated into a healthy life.
Yeah.
But I think also we've been taught as a community, like that's how you
Yeah.
relax. That's how or sugar and treats and like all that other sort of like stuff. Um, that's how you reward yourself. And it can be fun and it can be, part of a communal, uh, you know, process. But that in work gets skipped so often.
Yeah. All the
So
time.
often.
Ooh,
I know.
that's
And it's
good.
a survival technique because like who wants to like feel all that and recognize that? Because then here comes the question, what is that?
Yes. Yeah.
And the what is that without having a direct answer can be so paralyzing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it actually doesn't need to be. And sometimes there's a really simple answer. But if you don't know, then, sometimes fear takes over and you slot it off.
Yeah. And sometimes, like you said, that that we call it the heart work in Black Woman Leading, that going within sometimes opens up some other doors, and then we don't
Yep.
know. And it's like you got to be prepared. And sometimes we haven't allowed ourselves to go to that level of healing. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
shut that and push that stuff back in there and close that door,
Yeah.
but not realizing there's not a separation between the mind and the body. So we're experiencing the consequences, y'all, one way or another, whether we're
Yeah.
proactively going to take it by the reins and manage our healing package, as you said, or
Yeah.
if we're going to push that stuff down and let it emerge later and we have to deal with it in a reactionary way. So we want to be proactive. So we've been talking kind of more framework, I think, so people understand. Let's get into some of the tactical stuff. So, what are
Okay.
some indications that we may be having some gut issues, and what can we do? What are our steps or things we can be doing to kind of reset our body on a healthier path in this way?
For sure. I think, well, I guess first what I forgot to do at the top is kind of define what is your gut,
Yes, yes, that's good. Let's do
right?
that. Let's do that.
So let's bring it back a little bit, because I think most of us think of our gut as our stomach,
Yeah,
and yes, the gut, our stomach is part of it, but we're gonna talk all the way from our brain, because digestion really does start in the brain from when you think, smell, can hear, like sizzling or whatever,
yeah,
things and related to food, or sometimes it's an external cue, something totally unrelated that triggers a memory,
yeah.
that because like you could start thinking about a juicy lemon or your favorite dinner right now, and you might notice you get a little wet in the corner of your mouth, like, you know what I mean?
Tacos from the
Yes.
good spot.
Ooh. Exactly, right? So north to south, brain all the way down to, it expelling, into your toilet. So the other organs that are, going to come in is like your pancreas. We're talking large and small intestines. We're talking about all of that stuff, which we just kind of generally say the gut.
Mhm.
Now, different issues are definitely going to happen at different levels, or excuse me, different parts of your digestive system, but all over, we're just kind of calling it all the gut.
Yeah,
So like with that, sometimes there are like super obvious signs, like bloating, gas, north or south, nausea. Those are like, people generally like, oh yeah, tummy troubles, right? But other things that can be signs that, something's a little off with your system is, um, you know, painful for, menstruating women, painful periods,
Mhm.
chronic skin issues.
Wow.
Yeah, from like eczema or fungal, can even yes, your skin has its own microbiome, but there's a lot of like linkage and stuff between there. Um, Obviously, going or not going to the bathroom, and its frequency and its consistency, increased amount of allergies or things that you can no longer eat. I want to be careful with the word allergies, intolerances, and sensitivities, because they technically all have a different definition.
Mm,
But for general speak, you understand, like things you can no longer tolerate.
yeah,
We'll just call it, that. If you notice an increased amount of that sort of thing, um, you know, uh, irritability, shakiness, mood swings, like it's kind of like everything.
yeah. To get yourself
Because
checked out, okay? A
yeah,
physical. A head
yeah,
to toe physical, okay?
exactly, and and sometimes it can be kind of hard to pinpoint, because like you wound out the skin, you wouldn't think, oh, my stomach stuff, my gut stuff is why I have these skin issues. um so it can be kind of challenging, I'll admit, like in that sense, but like I said, sort of at the top of this at the top of the show, there's nothing your gut doesn't touch
Yeah.
in the rest of your body. So sometimes by taking care of, the mother of it all, a lot of other things will clear up. I have many clients who have had very symptomatic cycles, and without doing a hormone panel or any cycle related or sex hormone protocol, by just cleaning up their gut, phew,
Wow.
symptoms gone,
Yeah.
right? Symptoms gone. Um, Other people with autoimmune issues or who are experiencing flares, without even doing an autoimmune focused protocol, cleaned up the gut, did some healing, did some sealing, no more flares.
Mm.
So sometimes it can be as simple as just focusing on one system. And that's kind of like why I do focus on that, because to be completely honest, if you need work beyond that, if you haven't healed that system first, the other work is not going to be as
I
powerful.
see.
So you might as well work with like a super good, solid foundation before you start adding on or needing to address other issues that you might be experiencing.
Okay, so you talked about cleaning the gut, heal and seal. I mean,
Heal.
what do we need to do? Give us some insight. And I guess maybe this is the dichotomy to look at. What can we do, the self-care of it all?
Yeah.
And when might we need to tap into other health professionals for support?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I always say, like, let's make sure we have the free and the basics down, right? And the free and the basics, or the first level, is that we are, one, slowing down. I know no one wants to hear that. Slowing down, especially when it comes to our food.
Mhm.
I mean, how many of us are like, eating on the car, grabbing on the go, or yeah, I mean, and look, in the different phases of life, like that also happens. Like I've noticed, like, so I have a 2-year old. He's like 26 months. Just trying to like, when have I sat down? And I used to joke with my husband. I was like, I don't know if Zeph is going to learn how to use a fork because I'm never sitting down and modeling it for him. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So like, he knows how to use a fork every once, no worries, we're good. But, so slowing down, being able to transition away from that, or at least slow down to bring yourself a little bit further away from whatever is might be stressing you,
Mhm.
whether it is the election, whether it is that deadline that's coming up, whether it is your mother's health that is, on the rocks at the moment. And that's actually, Laura, you can start teaching people some breath work techniques as well. I'm a fan of, inhales and long exhalations, like a 3-minute situation. Other faith based clients, I always recommend having a true devotional um, uh, grace
Yeah.
before they sit down. Um, or other people who find that off putting, to even just have a moment to appreciate everything it took
Wow.
to get that food on your plate, from the farmer to the truck driver who brought it, you know, to the grocery store, to the farmer's market, to the person who sold it to you getting in your car, walking over to purchasing it for your job that gave you the money to do
Yeah.
such purchasing, and then to whoever prepared it, and all the love and all the colors, and just to really take it
Wow.
in, and not to be all right, I should say, let me put it in positive words, and to be grateful, and to perhaps be in awe
Yeah.
of, the miracle that it is to have a nourishing meal in front of you. Um, so what that really does is it helps the body transition into that parasympathetic state so that your digestion will happen a lot easier.
That's
Remember, there's a whole lot of hormones and juices and choreography, if you will, that needs to happen in order for us to digest better. And that even means, as you continue to eat, remaining in that state, because we don't want the food then to just, you know, bite, swallow,
yeah.
big pieces. It sits in your stomach since the pieces aren't small enough. The acid is trying to really work to bring it down, and then it's sitting longer, and then you're getting regurgitation, maybe some burping and off gassing and all of that jazz, and just slows everything down.
Yeah.
So, be able to bring it in, settle in, enjoy, be in gratitude, and try. And I always say no bad news. A lot of practitioners in my field are going to say eat undistracted, no phone, no this, no that. But I say stay connected, but no bad news.
Okay.
Um, so maybe that is, you know, no
You
emails.
look on the phone, but you got social media or otherwise, you're gonna see some
Yes,
foolishness.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. You just have to think about, like, okay, like what could it, like what are my, and also like what are your personal triggers?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So slowing down, that is free. That is so free. Then we have and I said, and slowing down and connecting in.
Yeah.
Then we have to think about our hydration levels, our fiber levels, and not being fat avoidant. So starting
Mm.
with hydration, obviously water, but also, electrolytes, which are the little minerals we get from the soil. So whether that be you adding in some sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, or if you like a little electrolyte, like packaged whatever, adding that in, that can be very, very helpful. Um, I'm not saying, go ham on the sodium, because you want all of it, not just one electrolyte. You kind of like want the nice balance. But so there's that. And then there's fiber. The fiber is going to help move things through, right? Help move and collect and, bring things out the other way. So things that need to be leaving your body do just that.
Mhm.
Then we also want to make sure that we're not fat avoidant. I guess it was like what, the early 90s or whatever. There was that, it was basically made us scared of eating fats.
Yeah.
And that is people who are generally fat avoidant um, have a lot of issues, especially around the constipation. So it's going to help you move everything, well, throughout your system. So that means enjoying that little, the olive oil or whatever, on your salad or whatever, or the little bit of the nuts or the seeds that you
Mhm.
added to your dish, not being scared of it. So that one is, I'll say, low cost, right?
Yeah.
And then we have exercise. They found some really awesome correlations between those who engage in moderate exercise have healthier microbiomes.
Wow.
So we're not talking about you turning into an ultra marathoner, because that actually can be quite depleting on the microbiome, high stress, or also if you are a hit junkie, as I like to say, if you're all about the high intensity interval training, that can be very stressful on the gut as well. Now, obviously, when it comes to exercise, it's all like your load tolerance. So things do obviously need to be scaled to the individual. But then again, as we often talk about nutrition and weight loss, people think high intensity, more, 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 which can also then lead to,
Yeah.
gut issues. So exercise, so that's another free one. You know what I mean? You and people. Additionally, I think people also think of exercise as something extremely organized.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, like, I'm a meathead. You will see me at the gym 5:45, 6 days a week. However, exercise can literally mean going up and down the stairs with your laundry basket, not, doing that extra trip. Oh, I forgot my water. Actually going downstairs and going back upstairs to get it. You know what I mean? It's at the park with your kids or your grandkids running around, pick me up, playing with them, getting, like all of that. Go, out with your dog, frisbee, ball, like all of that sort of stuff. But definitely letting the heart rate come up a few times and, go down. But yeah, exercise. So that can be free to as expensive as you want it to be. And those are all really like, those are my low cost ones. And then, oh, and another free one is redefining your relationship with food.
Yes.
I think that can be the trickiest one, and perhaps might be a full life conversation that you're always having, um, because food also does play a part beyond just, turning what we ate into like the different cells in our body. There is a cultural connection with food. There is a spiritual connection, and redefining it in a way that does not stress you out, but makes you feel in control. Because which for some people obviously can be very tricky. And so those are your like no cost, low cost, free things. And then generally people are like, well, what about supplements? And I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like, what's the
you know,
supplements? Because I hear some stuff, I hear some other stuff, and I know, it's gonna depend on the person and all of that. But like generally, I mean, what's your take on the supplement?
generally what I like to say is unless you have those basics, everyone hates my answer. Unless you have these basics down, don't look at supplements.
Mm. So the
Because
supplements, people are trying to use them for a cheat code, and you like, no, baby,
exactly.
that's not it. I see.
Not unless you've got those other things on
Mm.
lock.
Just
You know what I mean? And then, then because then we have to think, okay, well, am I taking something for a little bit of relief? Because in the moment, like if you're uncomfortable, please, like let's get uncomfortable.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? But it can't stop there. And that's kind of like the issue with the supplements. And that's why I never like to say. Now, I'm sure the question everyone listening has is like, okay, well, but what about probiotics? Probiotics. I keep hearing probiotics. Here is the pro and perhaps con of probiotics. One, okay, let's make the assumption that this is a good probiotic, as in it does what the company says it does. Okay, so we're gonna make that assumption number one. Number two, there is no perfect microbiome. Is t- and this is the fun and kind of like the art of like what I do. Um, and therefore, sometimes even that really well-meaning and well-produced uh, probiotic isn't going to give you the results that you
yeah,
need, because then also we are hoping that this probiotic also colonizes in your system. So we're hoping, one, it's of high value. Two, it's giving you the pieces that you need, as if you're missing or you're low an amount of those certain strands. And then three, we're hoping that it actually colonizes, because we want it to stay,
yeah.
right? We want it to stay and do its job and play nice with everything else. So that's why it can be kind of challenging. Now, do I ever have my clients on probiotics? Yes. When? Usually if they've come off of something, like they had to go on antibiotics for a surgery, an oral thing, a scary infection that they encountered, like, there's definitely a place for antibiotics and whatnot. And that's actually the time that I probably would be like, okay, good, like there's definitely been some compromising of the system, let's give it a boost, and let's and then let's hope that some things shift and things are good and great for you. But really, what I do recommend is people lean into, and this is in the low cost, more accessible, prebiotics. So prebiotic fibers, they nourish, they give nutrients and supply to the bacterial colonies inside your gut that we want to thrive and be happy.
Yeah.
So Jerusalem artichoke. We're talking about rice that's been cooked and cooled. We're talking about potatoes that also kind of go through that same sort of cooling process. So things that that you could get at the grocery store or at the farmer's market. So focusing on those sort of things, because those are the foods that are also going to nourish. Now, with that also being said, sorry to go back to the probiotics. If you Many cultures throughout the world um, do ingest foods that are high in probiotics. So we're talking about our krauts, our ferments, and whatnot. If if that could be a part of your daily, then
Mhm.
that's a probiotic that I'm like, yeah, go for it. But I'm not necessarily about, oh, like, buy this bottle of
Take the
XYZ one,
pill.
two, three.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, getting your food based, your kimchi, your yogurt if you're dairy tolerant, those sort of things. If it's like on the daily, then yes, then there's been some good proof that they tend to colonize better and it does you better.
Okay. So I'm hearing supplements are added after you've gotten the basis down. And if we're
Yeah.
talking about probiotics, we might use that as a restorer after some significant event.
I personally, yes. I
Yeah,
know not everyone shares that
yeah.
opinion, but I personally, yes.
Not just because I'm like my mother swears by some kefir and she listens. She gonna like anything that's wrong with you, drink some kefir, drink some
Well,
kefir.
because it's got that probiotics, but
Yeah.
I will be like, yeah, every day and some yogurt and some, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah. She
yeah.
swears by the kefir. It's like her ginger ale. You know how people drink some ginger ale. Like my arm fell
Yeah.
off. What are you talking about, right? So I'm loving though that a lot of these things we people think, oh, I gotta kind of go to this doctor or somebody, and these are things that really lifestyle practices from
Yeah.
the free and low that are things we could be doing to kind of clean the gut. Now you talked about like sealing the gut. What does that mean when
Okay.
you talk about sealing the gut?
Yes. Now, that's where I guess you definitely probably you probably need like a little assistance
Okay.
from a professional. So generally, with a lot of the adverse symptoms that we feel in relationship to our GI tract, especially when it comes to the small intestine. So the small intestines, let me start over. The small intestines is that's the site of absorption.
Okay.
Maybe you've heard of like leaky gut. So
Yep.
basically what that means is that the integrity of its skin has been compromised, and
Okay.
therefore the little tight junctions are no longer tight, and then become more irritated and can allow things that aren't supposed to go into the bloodstream into the bloodstream. So we're
Got it.
getting inflammation as well. So when I am sealing the gut, basically I'm giving clients supplements, specific supplements in order to help restore that tight barrier. Now, as you can probably imagine, you can't be you have to do you have to be removing the irritants in order to let the healing happen, right? Um
Got it.
so that's when you might need like a little bit of, like extra support, because then it's like, well, what's irritating me? Like, why is this happening? And then we have to go top down.
Yeah.
So, I know. It's a process.
So the tapping into health professionals when we might need to diagnose what the situation is, and also there's a clear thing that's not right, from the side effects or whatever, and we might need to heal some things that require a different level of knowledge or expertise. That'd be
Yes,
accurate.
totally, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's also like, what is the chicken, like chicken and egg, and
Yeah.
then it's kind of like what and why I was kind of careful with whole sensitivities, allergies, and intolerances is that so like you can have delayed sensitivity to something. It could take up to like, you know, 3 days for you to feel poorly due to something you ingested. So that's
Okay.
why, like, I always have my client's food journal. Um, and with that, sometimes it's the load that caused the reaction. So sometimes it's sometimes it's the food, sometimes it's the load of the food, and sometimes it's the all overload. So maybe it was like you hit three things together, and that's what's causing that reaction.
I see.
So it can be very complicated, you know what I mean? And to keep track, because look, it's easy. If you get food poisoning, so easy to point to, oh, it was those fish tacos last night. Like, you know what I
Right,
mean? But
right, right.
it's not always so easy. And that's when you probably heard about elimination diets and whatnot. And those are legit. The issue is if the ceiling doesn't happen, once you bring those foods back in, we have issues.
We got the same issues. Yeah.
Yeah, the idea is not like in a perfect world, you remove the things that are irritating, you do the healing and the sealing, and you can bring them all back in.
I
The
see.
idea is not to, oh, I only eat 5 things now because that's how I feel good. If you can only eat 5 things, that means you've got some work to do.
You got some work to do. So you mean to tell me there is hope that I might be able to have a little scoop of ice cream here and there at some point? Because right now I can't have none of it. I can't even look at the ice cream. I don't even try it. This is so funny. I went grocery shopping the other day, and this let me know I was punishing my family because my daughter is a baker.
Okay.
My 15-year-old is a baker. Now she doesn't really eat the stuff. She bakes it as an activity, as a wellness practice or something, and then
Yeah.
she leaves it for the family to eat it. So she was saying she was making some brownies. And I said, oh, they might enjoy a little scoop of vanilla ice cream with their brownie. I'll taste the brownie, but I can't touch the vanilla ice cream. So I bought some vanilla ice cream. When I came home, my family was so excited. My daughter was like, we have ice cream. And it made me realize I haven't bought my children
Oh my
ice cream
god.
in a long time because I can't eat it, but that doesn't mean they should be punished. But you mean to tell me that there may be a possibility that at some point I can have a little scoop of ice cream without it like messing up the rest of my life? Is this what
Well,
we're
here's the thing. So dairy is kind of tricky because there
okay?
can be technically 3 things that could be the issue. Now, for
Okay,
most of us, it's gonna be the lactose.
got it.
So the lactose is the sugar. It's one of the components that makes up ice cream is it's the sugar that your body doesn't have the enzyme to
Got
digest.
got it.
It dies off after like childhood, or for most of us, it dies off or depletes after childhood. So it could be as simple as you needing to have like, a lactate pill or something like that in order to enjoy that every so often. For other people, it can, when it comes to dairy, it could be the whey or the casein, which are the different proteins
Got
that
it.
make milk. And then to make it even a little bit kookier, it could be depending, we're assuming it's cow dairy, it could be depending on the type of cow. Like the A2 Jersey cows are easier to digest than the ones that we typically, or the more mass produced cows, dairy cows in the States. And maybe you can't have any of the cow dairy, but maybe goat is fine for you. If it's lactose,
Mm.
you're still gonna have that problem. But if it's the proteins, it might be different.
Uh,
So it's kind of like you kind of have to like figure out like which is the issue. Generally, for non-children, it's most likely going to be the inability to digest the carbohydrate, the lactose.
okay,
So you
I'm
can
gonna
play
leave it
around with
alone for
that.
that. Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like,
I'm
I don't.
just gonna leave it alone for that. It's too much. It's too much. What this is so enlightening, BB. I mean, I do want to ask you one or two of our core questions, but it's just
Yeah.
so much to unpack here. Is there like a final thought or a final takeaway you want to share on, getting your gut in check with our audience before we shift to our core question?
Just that if it is bothersome enough that you always have to prepare, or you're gonna need more time, or people make, even family, even though they're like, we all love to roast our family. If you've been roasted about it,
Right, right, right.
take listen to it, take care of it. It could also be telling you something that you may not have found to be super important yet,
Hmm.
but also like it doesn't get better by ignoring it.
Yeah, yeah,
So, like the bathroom, like, and the bloating and all that stuff, like you shouldn't have to suffer. You shouldn't have to, live in fear. There's a lot of there's a lot of things that can be done. Some of it's super simple. Some of it is more complex. However, like, no, don't suffer. Why? Why? We're not promised another day. Stop that. Like, just take care of yourself. It's not embarrassing,
yeah.
because so many people are
And
dealing with it too.
I love you saying that because it's a lot of things are normalized. What I'm hearing you saying is not normal that you should be suffering in a way all the time connected to
Mhm.
your food or your digestion,
Yeah.
or your earlier point that you can only eat 5 foods and feel
Yeah.
good. That like we've normalized it where that's just the way it is. But I hear you saying it doesn't have to be that way, and it's
Yeah.
probably not normal to be that way.
Yeah,
Healthy,
and
not
just
normal,
because it's
healthy to be that way.
yeah, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal.
Yeah, yeah.
I think our culture has, made light of a lot of dysfunction, whether
Yeah,
it comes, like, from GI to, like, other things, like being hangry, for
yeah,
example.
yeah,
That's dysfunction. And it doesn't have to be that way.
yeah,
So just know that, like, like, we can be vibrant beings. You can be a vibrant being, and this will alleviate a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. It will only make you better, stronger, happier, more vibrant.
yeah. I love that. I love it. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for sharing your wisdom on this. I
Of
want to ask you
course.
one or two of our core
Yeah.
questions, just in keeping with our season 6 theme of community care is critical. And we've had some
Okay.
elements come up even in the gut health conversation around, the cultural elements of food and of um, being in a communal space and all of that. So we know community is definitely connected to our food. But in just these 2 points, I love to ask our guests because we view you as leaders and role models and things of that sort. One, we like to normalize asking for help in our community.
Yes.
And that's hard sometimes for many of the Black women that we've worked with, right?
Mhm.
Because they have been the one that people come to, but they are not always given the opportunity or take the opportunity to also receive that type of help, support, and care. So, can you, just as a way to normalize this, can you share a time of when you've asked for help and it made the difference for you?
Ooh. Oh, what do I mean, I feel like I have, I'm like, see, look at me, like, calling me out, like, when am I asking for help?
Not the
Oh, but you
intent.
know what? Actually, you know what? Sometimes kinda recently, it's like, look, I'll be honest, I'm a really good starter, but I'm not always a really good finisher,
Okay.
or I've got a lot of ideas, and bringing them across the finish line can be kind of challenging to me.
Yeah.
So if there's something that I want to do or achieve, and I'm not really sure because it could be 50 different ways, um, I'll need help. So, like, recently, I was like, "This is, like, so I really want a European Doberman, and those dogs need a lot of need a lot of exercise, and
Yeah.
I live in Philly, I live in a row house, like, I gotta make sure my dog is exercised so he doesn't, tear up the
Exactly.
world, and, I mean, it's a big, strong dog, but I was like, "So I need to start running." So I hired a run coach.
Wow.
Now let me tell you, is anything no, like, okay, like, my Coach Libby, she's great, she's fabulous. Is this something I probably could have, like, looked up and Googled myself? Yes. People have done it before. People have done couch and I'm not on the couch, but, like, people have done couch to 5Ks to marathons and, like, whatever. But I was like, "You know what? I clearly, even with this desire to have
Yeah.
this gorgeous dog with me, I'm not able to do it. I got a coach."
Yeah.
Something that seems, like, so trivial and so it's made the world of a difference. I
Wow.
am consistent, let me tell you, I am consistent. Just to have some and, like, accountability or a support system, like, to have someone help you through that can just be, it's not even about it's and funny enough, it's, like, not even about me running, it's about me making sure that I'm a good, responsible dog owner in the future. Like, I was like, this is, like, the most, like, recent example that, like, I can think of, but now I feel like, okay, I am deserving of this dog, like, I can do
Yeah.
this because and maybe it's also, like, trauma being bitten by dogs, and my sister being bitten, but I don't know what it is, but all I know is sometimes you might have to ask and you might have to pay for it,
Yeah.
um, but it doesn't like, getting the support, getting the help is, like, yeah, it should be so normal.
Yeah.
I know, it's, like, a silly example, but, like, or let's be honest, when my mom came when my son was born and she stayed for 3 months.
Hello. My mama
You know
come
what
and
I
stay
mean?
with me all the time for some months.
Right?
So
Like,
I understand. Yeah, but you said something so powerful. You said, "I am deserving," and that's often why we can't receive help because we think it's, "Oh, just asking for this little thing," but it's also acknowledging, "I am deserving to receive it as well, not just to give it,
yeah.
to also receive it."
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, okay, okay, last one, last one. This is so
Yeah.
good. What is your care superpower? So what do you offer that creates a soft space for others in your community to land?
I have this weird little sickness that I really love to see other people thrive and, like, overcome.
Yeah.
It is like, it's so funny, my clients, like, laugh at me because like, whether like, because 'cause they'll do something and I'll be so excited, like I did it, you know what I mean? But it's, like, for them and they've been wanting it, and I don't know, like, I guess that is my superpower because it yeah, to me, it's just, like, so cool to see people overcome and, like, especially, like, in this work that I do, um, for some people, like, uh, this whole healing and sealing journey allows them physical romantic intimacy again, and
Mm.
it's like, "Oh my god," like, you are putting your true life, like, your soul life on hold because of this,
Wow.
and the studying and the hours and and the clinical practice that I've brought together was able to help you tap back into, like, your soul and your connection to others, like,
That's
oh my
powerful.
gosh,
That's
like,
powerful.
that is you know what I mean? Like, that one, I was like, "Oh my word."
Yeah, life
It is
changing, life changing.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And yeah, I really love to see people because I don't know, I just think that if we could all just, like, have the support to accomplish what we wanna accomplish and really truly take care of our selves, not our material selves,
Yeah.
but our soul selves, that we could. And that's also why I honestly do really love working with creative people, because they like put their souls on display, and we need to see humanity in order, sometimes in order to connect back in, and to see that reflected is so important. So if I can create healthier individuals who are generally going to radiate a little bit more vibrantly and a little bit more positively, then maybe other people will be affected by that and being able to soak in those rays and then produce and continue to share. Um, because yeah, I guess I'm a little kumbaya at the end of the
Well,
day.
I got a little chill. Your passion is so evident. I got a little chill while you were talking. So it's a blessing, girl. You out here blessing these folks, okay?
Oh,
Blessing them.
yeah.
I love it. This has been so delightful talking to you today. Where can people connect with you beyond the podcast? And is there anything you have going on that you want to share with the listener?
You can connect with me either through my website, www.bbarrington.com. You can hit me up on Instagram, that's bb.arrington, so ARRINGTON. And I'll be like, actually, I'll tell you guys first. So in January, I'm also going to be launching a blood labs, blood chemistry sort of package as well. I just have been too furious with my friends and with my family, of what happens at the doctor's office when you get your, it's
Yeah,
I don't it's not enough.
yeah,
I don't think it's enough. And there's a lot of more markers that could be so helpful. But when you're going through insurance, unless there's probable cause for XYZ123, they're not going to ask and not going to look at it, and they're going to miss, and they do miss a lot.
yeah.
I'm like, it's just not how the system works. And so, that is, in addition. So having that, also that extra support, is something that I'm going to be bringing to the table as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm
Mhm.
excited to get started working with you as well. And this has just been really informative. So thank you so much. So if you've been listening and you found this information useful today, please share it with a friend. We're on all major podcast platforms. You can follow, subscribe. We would also appreciate if you like, favorite, review, rate, comment, all the things to help to amplify this work we're doing here at Black Woman Leading. You can follow us, Black Woman Leading, at Black Woman Leading on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. You can also visit our website to learn about our upcoming leadership development programs and events at blackwomanleading.com. If you want to connect with me personally, I'm Laura E. Knights with a K on all social platforms. And finally, if you're interested in any of our work we do within organizations to help create more conscious, competent, and confident leaders, you can check out our corporate site at knightsconsultinggroup.com. We love to connect with you in any of these ways. And until next time, be well.